So this month we have been looking at the idea of living out loud. And as I shared with you last week, Jimmer Bolden, one of our favorite soloists, said, every time I get a text from now on that has LOL in it, instead of thinking of it as laugh out loud, I'm going to use that as a reminder to me to live out loud, to live out loud. And so in the first week in this series, we took a look at the idea of saying yes to life, saying yes to the opportunities before us, looking at setting intentions for the year of what we want to bring into the year, having it be less about what we're going to not do and more about what we are going to do, what we do want to bring forward, and what we do want to manifest. And then last week we took a look at the idea of really letting our lights shine as brightly as we possibly can. And what is it that sometimes keeps us from letting that light shine as brightly as possible? And today I want to talk to you about the idea of stopping doubting and starting doing. Do any of you still suffer, at least from time to time, with doubt? Yeah? Self-doubt, that little voice in your head that tells you, no, you can't do this, or probably won't work, or just that. We're familiar with that voice. We're familiar with that voice. So I want to talk about how do we stop doubt and how do we step more boldly into doing, into embodying, into creating. Stopping doubt, stepping into doing. And I think a lot of it has to do with this idea of inspiration. I don't know how it is for you, especially if you've been following the traveling monks or just learned about them today. What they're doing is inspiring, is it not? Very inspiring. It touches the goodness inside of us. And I think that's part of what's happening wherever they walk. They're not trying to walk against something. They're walking for something. They're walking for peace. And people, I think, are inspired by that. They're touched by that genuineness, that authenticity. And when we're inspired by another, it brings out the better versions of ourselves. We want to do better. You've had that experience, right? You see somebody doing something that seems impossible, or you learn of somebody forgiving a really significant wrong, and you think, wow, maybe I can do a little bit better with issues of forgiveness in my life, or maybe I can try to do something a little bigger or a little more with faith and courage than I have before. The very word inspire comes from the Latin word inspire, and it means to blow or to breathe into. To breathe into. Say that with me. To breathe into. In Genesis, in the 2nd chapter, the 7th verse, we read these words. Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living being, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. In a way, to be inspired is to literally have God breathe into us, the infinite breathe into us. And that experience, I think, lifts us up. It causes us to rise. It causes us to be more hopeful, to be more filled with faith, to believe that we can do more than what we have currently done. Charles Fillmore, in his book, Talks on Truth. Charles was the co-founder of Unity. Unity began in the late 1880s. Charles wrote, "There is within every man such a place, the secret place of the Most High. This is the point that man understands what it is to be inspired by the Spirit to say and do things extraordinary in the sight of the world." Stop for just a moment and ask yourself, who are the people that inspire you? I'm not going to ask you to share it, but who are the people that inspire you? And what is it that they have done? Why do they inspire you? I imagine that some of the things they have done are things that you would like to do. I imagine that some of the things they have done are things that you think are noble and good and courageous and important and healing and necessary. Am I right with any of those? Right. And when we see or read about or learn about what another has done, it inspires us, it ignites in us that feeling that, well, maybe I can do some of that too. No, Jesus said, the things that I do, you shall do, and greater things than these shall you do. Mahatma Gandhi talked about saying that, basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not that great. The things that I do, anybody else could do if they discipline themselves. A big if, right? Right. I think that it is probably true of all of the greatest teachers, spiritual and otherwise. All of the greatest teachers, I believe, say the same thing and believe the same thing. That the good that they have done, that we might look at as being beyond what we have done so far, that those teachers believe that we too are capable of the same kinds of things than they have done. I think this is why it's so important and so helpful when we are willing to let our own lights shine as brightly as possible, to do what we can do to bring forth greater good, greater peace, greater love, greater joy in our relationships, in our families, in our communities, in our world. It's the idea of being a high wattage human being. A high wattage human being, one that really is full out, who is what? Living out loud, who is not letting doubt pull them down, like gravity pulls us down, right? Doubt seems to pull us down and keep us stuck, whereas faith lifts us up, lifts us beyond where we are and what we have done so far, to what we can do and to what we can be. We all have, we used to teach this, I think we still do, in Youth Village and Sunday School. We have the little me and we have the big me inside of us. The little me is that one that holds grudges and is small-minded and won't let somebody cut in front of us on the freeway, gives less than supportive hand gestures when we're upset. You know, the little me, the little me. And we all also have the big me, the me that tries to keep the little me in check, the big me, the God you, the divine you, the one that is able to rise above the limitation, to rise above the littleness, to rise above the doubt and the fear, and to know and be inspired to do the highest and best thing. We can use a metaphor here with the little me and the big me of a sailboat. Think of a sailboat with the sails furled. In order for that sailboat to move on the water, on the lake, if the sails are furled, that person in that boat has to row pretty darn hard, right? Are you with me? They have to row. It's the effort. It's kind of like what happens when with doubt in our with doubt in our life. It keeps us down, it keeps us small, it keeps us stuck. It keeps us having to work harder than we would if we allowed ourselves to unfurl the sails. Our spiritual teachings, I believe, help us to unfurl the sails so that we catch the wind and have the added energy to move forward in our life experience. We don't have to do all of this alone. In fact, we can do whatever is ours to do. We can do much better when we unfurl our sails, when we catch the wind of Spirit, when we allow ourselves to be moved by Spirit. We don't have to row so hard. We don't have to work so hard. Does that sound good to anybody? Sounds really, really good to me. A friend of mine, and perhaps some of yours, Michael Bernard Beckwith, was perhaps the first to coin the idea that we are either pushed by pain or pulled by vision. We are either pushed by pain or pulled by vision. The choice, much of the time, is ours, whether we're going to wait to be broken open and pushed to where we are meant to be and how we are meant to be, or whether we are going to allow ourselves to be pulled by the possible, to be pulled by vision, to be pulled by what we are capable of because we have seen others who have done something remarkable and have been inspired by others who have done something remarkable. Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind wrote, "We can be certain that there is an intelligence in the universe to which we may come that will guide and inspire us." That will guide and inspire us. It's as if that intelligence is not only guiding and inspiring us, but actually breathing life into us, breathing wind into our sails, so we don't have to do all of the work only on our own. Inspiration lifts us up. Doubt pushes us down. Every time we are inspired by anything, the great feat of someone else, an act of courage, a beautiful sunset, the laughter of a child, the beauty of the mountains, the beauty of nature itself, the awe-inspiringness of nature. Anytime we are inspired, it is as if God itself is breathing new life and possibility into us. I think it is so valuable and important to us right now in where our human family is on the planet, in the kinds of things we are struggling with. It is so important for us to feed our spirits inspirationally. Can I have an amen to that? To feed our spirits inspirationally so that we can take that bigger step, whatever that is for us, and not to measure it against somebody else's step. Somebody else's step may be a giant step, and ours might be small. It does not matter. What matters is that we take the step that's before us, that we do the act of kindness that is before us, that we stop doubting ourselves and doubting our own capacities and abilities and the importance of our own voice and the importance of our own way of looking at things, that we stop doubting that and we start trusting it more. I think when I asked you a few moments ago to think about the people that inspire you and what it is that they did that inspired you, do you think it's realistic to believe that they might have had some moments of doubt? I think so. I think so. The difference is they didn't let that doubt stop them. The difference is they sent that doubt to voicemail. And they decided to pay attention to something clearer, stronger, more important. Clearer, stronger, more important. We can either be pushed in our lives individually or collectively, and I think we are collectively being pushed by pain right now, or pulled by a vision. And I guess in either way, if it causes us to break free and to heal what needs to be healed in our lives individually and in the human family, then I guess, okay. But let's not ever forget the end result that we're aiming for. Wholeness for ourselves, peace for ourselves, wholeness for one another, peace and justice and kindness for one another. Is that not important? Of course it is. Of course it is. Have you ever thought, as I was just calling this to mind, I actually flipped back to being about 12 or 13 years old at the San Diego Zoo, the very first time my parents took my brother and me to the zoo. We were brought up on Long Island and eventually found our way to California and to San Diego. And one of the things my dad wanted to show us was the San Diego Zoo. And this fits with the example I wanted to share with you, of this idea of either being pushed by pain or pulled by a vision. Because a lot of us are living in lives that are way too small because we are stuck in doubt instead of breaking free and allowing ourselves to be more of what we each individually are capable of being. And it's the illustration of a baby chick in an egg. I remember vividly standing there. I don't think they still have this in the children's zoo, but they used to have where you could watch the eggs as they were getting ready to hatch. Have any of you ever seen that? It can take a long time, a very long time, even after they peck through those first few times. I was spellbound by that. To see this tiny little creature pecking its way out of this shell. And then when I must have been standing there with my dad for a very long time because we watched until one of them finally completely came out. And then to see how shaky it was and how fragile it was. And then eventually, it did whatever they do and started to gain more strength. But I remember watching that. And so when I think of that image and I think of that little chick inside of that shell, it knows, in a way that only a baby chick can know, that it can't stay in there forever. Because if it stayed in there forever, what would happen? It would die. It would die. And so it's got to break free from that shell. And I imagine there's a bit of struggle there, and maybe some pain there. And in a way, perhaps some fear. Not that I think baby chicks have fear. I don't know what baby chicks have. But they've never been on the other side of that shell, right? And that shell has been warm and cozy and safe and had everything that they needed, right? Right? And sometimes as human beings, we're an awful lot like that little chick. We want to stay where it's warm and cozy and just the right size. But eventually what happens is we begin to experience what I talked about a few weeks ago, divine discontent, where we realize, wait a minute, this shell is way too small. Something has got to give here. I am meant to live a bigger life than the one that I'm living in the shell right now. I believe that that is true for us as individuals, and I believe that is true for us as communities and nations. That we are at a place where we are being forced to look anew at the way we interact with each other, and forced to find a way to break through into a sense of freedom, a sense of fairness, a sense of well-being. Wherever you are in your life right now, there is something calling you to go forward. It may be a change in direction. It may be stretching your wings, but I am convinced that there is and some of you are nodding your heads, there is something more for you to do and be, just as there is for me. And it's not just for you that you do the work, and it's not just for me that I do the work. It's for what happens when each of us does the work that is ours to do. Amen to that. Because when we do the work that is ours to do and break through whatever doubts and fears we have, when we do the work that is ours to do, we inspire. It's not just the great people that have done great things in the world that are written about in the history books or in the sacred texts that inspire. It's ordinary people like you and me doing the extraordinary where we are. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Silence is powerful. And believe me, I'm not at a loss for words. I could talk to you for hours. What I do want to say, though, is there is something in you that is incredibly important that is needing and wanting to happen in your life. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. But I do know that if you will pay attention to it, and you will honor it with your thoughts and with your actions, that your life is going to work so much better than it works right now. And I'm not saying your life doesn't work well right now. Maybe it works extraordinarily well. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you have been languishing and it feels flat. But what I do know is there is something in you that is trying to pull you forward. And if you will honor that by paying attention to it and taking whatever next right step is the one for you, you will begin to feel more whole, strong, and confident. And you will be an inspiration to those who get to know you and witness you being that shining light. Witness you pushing away or ignoring doubt and stepping full force into doing and being who and what you are meant to be. Namaste.